Today, we've got a seller who's still working his everyday full-time job, but on the side, he's been able to grow his online brand to over $4 million of revenue. How cool is that? Pretty cool, I think. Are you looking to learn how to sell on Amazon? The Freedom Ticket course made by Kevin King is one of the most popular courses ever created for Amazon sellers. It's got over 90 modules and 40 hours of detailed step-by-step training to help get you started on your entrepreneurial journey. Now, this course costs $997, but Helium 10 actually covers that cost of the course for any Helium 10 member. Find out why tens of thousands of students love this program by going to h10.me/freedom ticket. Don't forget that if you do sign up for a Helium 10 account, don't pay full price. Use our podcast discount code SSP10 to save 10% off for life. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Serious Sellers Podcast by Helium 10. I am your host, Bradley Sutton, and this is the show that's a completely BS-free, unscripted, and unrehearsed, organic conversation about serious strategies for serious sellers of any level in the e-commerce world. We've got a serious seller on with us today. How's it going, Robert?
What's going on, Bradley? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. It's pretty cool that you're here. We just had some technical difficulties, made him wait for like 10 minutes as my audio was having issues, but he's a trooper here, and that's kind of like probably like part of the theme, I should say, of what we're going to be talking about today. Now, I remember, meeting you at the Prosper show. You came by our booth, and I was like just learning a little bit about you. I'm like, hold on, say no more. This sounds like an interesting story. I want to find out about it with everybody else. So let's start with your origin. You just told me a couple minutes ago you're in the Georgia area right now. Is that where you were born and raised?
No, so I was actually born and raised in Venezuela. So up to the age of 10, parents moved to the U.S. and yeah, for the majority of the rest of so far, we've been in Georgia, north of Atlanta. Okay,
excellent. Now, upon graduation of high school, how long did it take you to learn English as a 10-year-old? 10-year-old is early enough to pick it up pretty fast, I would imagine. Like me, I'm trying to learn languages now, and it's like impossill.
I couldn't imagine learning a
language. Did you acclimate pretty fast?
Yeah, so at that age, it's still early enough that you can learn it pretty fast. You the ESOL classes and all that. But I always say it's still, 10 years, spent there, my first 10 years, I still remember and I still speak Spanish, obviously, just as fluent as I speak English. So it was definitely somewhat tough, as I remember at those times. Okay. But looking back at it, obviously way easier than trying to learn as an adult, that's for sure. So yeah, did middle school and high school here in the U.S. And then, after that, obviously college as well. All
right. So after you graduated high school, did you stay local for college, or did you go to college? What did you do?
Yeah, so I was kind of one of those kids that from early on, I somehow found, a computer, found Photoshop, started doing design and selling websites when I was in high school. And so I always thought I was going to be an entrepreneur. But late high school, I basically thought...
How do you sell websites in high school?
Yeah. So I got into one thing, led to another, basically selling design, like signatures for $5 on forums, that kind of hustle, being a 13, 14-year-old. And then that led to, I saw, websites being sold on Flippa, which used to be called SitePoint. And so I think I remember one summer I made almost $30,000 selling websites, and my parents thought I was doing something illegal and everything. But yeah, I was always just kind of tinkering.
$30,000 in a month, and you were
in the summer. But yeah, that felt like I was rich. I didn't know what to do with that much money at that time.
No, you were rich. If you make $30,000 in a summer and you're a teenager, that's rich.
Yeah, I felt rich. So that's kind of what got me started a little bit into entrepreneur and stuff. So
okay, so then did you attend a university, or did you just go straight into doing business?
Basically, I still had good grades in high school. I never really took it too serious. I played baseball. I didn't really like school. I honestly didn't. I didn't get too used to school when moving to the U.S. I kind of struggled with it, to be honest. But then towards the end of high school, I figured, I need to apply for colleges and go to college and stuff like that. And I was never really thinking too much of it. First generation also here in the U.S. It's not like our parents really knew, the way to how to apply and all that. I just felt, towards the end of college, I saw more people doing it. So I had to apply to college, and so I did, and so one thing led to another, and I like finance, I like business, so yeah, I went to my undergrad in finance, and so that led kind of a dual path that I've been following ever since, of kind of having a career in a corporate route, but at the same time, kind of always wanting to be an entrepreneur and trying things on the side. So that's kind of where the split happened.
Did the website thing like stop being so lucrative, or how did you? Because like hey, if I was making $30,000 a month or 2 months or something, like I'm not going to stop that. So like, how did you migrate into kind of more e-commerce and selling online?
Yeah, so that happened, and then obviously being in high school, you take your eyes off of it. You don't know what business really means, and then obviously that dried out after a while. And so it was one thing after another, kind of trying little projects with friends and stuff on the side. But it wasn't until 2012, which was basically a couple of years after graduating high school, while I was in college, that I got into Amazon. And yeah, so that's a whole nother story in itself. Didn't get into it properly, but that's kind of where my e-com
What do you
journey
mean by
began.
didn't get into it properly?
Well, being in college, kind of not having a fully developed brain there, I started selling. There was one weekend I found, kind of went online and found this equivalent of like Alibaba back in the day, where you could find, goods. And I thought I saw some OtterBox cases. Not sure if you know what those are, but those were total hit in the early 2010s. And so I bought a couple, and a couple turned into, they sold out, and more and more. And next thing you know, a couple months later, basically I had I had a copy of a lawsuit in the mail, from Otter Products. They caught one of my accounts on eBay, and I was suspended from Amazon and all that. So I didn't really at the time put two and two together, that private label, like this whole thing. I was just kind of trying to make a quick buck, likely. And so yeah, it took many years after that to be able to kind of open a new account and start off fresh, as an actual business.
So then, what year were you talking about when these things were happening?
So this was 2012, late 2012, early 2013, that I got banned and went through all this, and then back and forth with the lawyers and everything, and took a while. And it wasn't until 2016 that I think I opened another account, and so like that, late 2017 was when I really launched my first brand. So there was a big gap in between there. Obviously, my career wise was going really well. I got some really nice internships. Started my career in finance. Did a 2-year program where I moved around in the U.S. and did all these things. And so ultimately, got my MBA and all that later on. But at the time, I was still doing consulting. My main client was Facebook, actually. So I was out in the West Coast a lot, and on the side trying to launch an Amazon brand. So I kept kind of seeing friends do it, or just like online and stuff. And I was like, wow, this is really, I understood it pretty well, just from back in the day, kind of having gone through it and just always being kind of digital native. But yeah, it was until those 2017, late 2017, that I launched anything.
So 2017 really was kind of like when you launched on Amazon, like in the right way, not stealing somebody else's intellectual property and whatnot, I guess, huh?
17 had a couple of private label, but they were just kind of flops, just really like tests, really small products. But late 2017 was, after months of research and my own brand, and I launched a notebook planner brand at the end of that year. Yeah.
Throughout this time, you're still working full time, quote unquote, for the man. Now, what happened with that brand that you started on Amazon? Like, what was the peak of it? Like what kind of level did you get to with that notebook brand?
Yeah, so it was kind of thrilling. I had a really great job at this time. I'm late 20s, already making, 6 figures. But at the same time, there was this urge to kind of do this on the side. And so like, I was trying to do it. I always saw it as, ultimately I want this to be a company and a business rather than like a side kind of hustle and just make a couple bucks. So from the get-go, I tried to take it, a lot more serious, at least a lot more serious than the amount of cash I had to do it with. But yeah, at first, I remember launching basically last days of October. It was holiday season, obviously, and I'm launching a planner. So think of a planner you write in monthly, weekly. It's undated, so you could kind of use it all year round. But I was launching in the holidays, and I remember the November, December. I think I sold maybe $20,000 my first month, and like 20, 30 like in December. So it was like, wow, like right away you're seeing like, that feels like a ton. And so like, okay, launch more variations and everything to start the year in 2018. And so, what happened with that first batch is a lot of lessons learned there. There was some manufacturing defects, so kind of ruined the reviews right away and had to relaunch, to begin 2018. And so, basically that whole year was kind of like at that same kind of level, right? So I scaled it to 20, 30,000 a month in sales. It was good margins and all back then. Obviously, no ads or anything like that. So it was great times. But I really always kind of saw it as like, oh, I need to maybe like branch out into a brand in the home and kitchen space or something that was more like high volume. Like I saw this as office products, maybe declining long term. And so like overall, I just wanted to have a brand I could get behind and be in a more competitive category.
All right. So then, what was your next step?
Yeah. So at this time, 2018, mid 2018, I'm still with this first brand. I'm thinking get into another brand. I just started my MBA, so it was like as part of my MBA in 2019, early 2019. We were going to China anyways, right? So it was like, okay, I was looking into another brand at the same time, looking for suppliers, so like what I could start. And I see like kind of coffee products, that's kind of cool. It's something I understand. Saw a couple other kind of niches, but like I was kind of set with this one supplier that I had met, and they had this product that they were developing. It was a coffee grinder. At the time, I didn't like their current model. It was already being sold and everything, but they had this new model that I really liked. I told them like, no, thank you, but like, maybe down the line once that model is finished. So it turns out like it was, good timing as well. I was going to China and kind of launching, trying to launch this cafe brand in mid 2019. That's when I ultimately launched it. So I was in China in March for about a month. So I went 2 weeks as part of my MBA, and then stayed an extra couple of weeks at the Canton Fair, met the supplier, and so ultimately decided to place a PO to launch this one SKU. It was a coffee grinder. Launched it mid 2019, and kind of just took it very serious. By that point, I was determined to make it work. I saw it was a very competitive category. Obviously, there were already big sellers, not just big sellers, but brands sold by Amazon, One Piece. And I just, we took it very serious on the launch and just the branding and everything. And everything was with the mission kind of like to get it into retail one day, or just kind of look bigger than it was, and come up with a roadmap of coffee products. But yeah, that was mid 2019.
Mid 2019. So 2020 was your first full year with this new coffee brand, and what did you generate in revenue for that year?
Yeah, so 2020 obviously a crazy year because of COVID, but that year I was able to do just about $2 million, despite being out of stock for long periods of time. We were doing $600,000 in a couple of weeks, and then out of stock for a whole lot of weeks, right, and then on and off again. So it was a roller coaster of a year, and definitely a lot of lessons learned there, growing pains, all those kind of words. But really, like my second MBA, I call it, was basically COVID times and supply chain kind of crises that were going on. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was 2 million. At the time, it took a lot to be able to get there, because if you think the year before we were doing just barely into the six figures, right? I think in 2019. When I had kind of both brands, but the second one was new, I did maybe $500,000 or so, right? To scale from there to 2 million, it kind of sounds easy, but a lot of things have to happen. And one of those things that had to happen was kind of the capital, just the supplier terms, for example, right? So like before COVID, I kind of had the standard supplier terms where you pay a deposit, which is normally like 30% or so, and then you pay the remaining 70%, before the goods even leave China or before they get to the US, right? And so, given those terms, I would not have been able to scale at all, because I just didn't have the capital for it, right? And being a consumer goods product business, you need more inventory, the better your product does, right? And so being bootstrapped, that was just not an option. And so I had to negotiate really tough terms with the supplier that really allowed the risk to be kind of transferred to them. And quite frankly, for us to place bigger POs and be able to scale the products and so on. So that was kind of 2020.
Now the supplier was somebody you had met in person, though, right? And like had a personal relationship with, because you had visited them. So like, you think that helped with this negotiation?
I would say it didn't hurt, that's for sure. So I always tell people that are kind of trying to get into space, you can always go to Alibaba, meet suppliers there, and really kind of start fostering the relationship. Start messaging, but it's not quite the same as I went to their factory, took a bullet train, in the middle of nowhere. he had me out to eat snake. I ate snake. That to them, it's like something you sit down and share, like a delicacy. I ate the gallbladder of the snake. Like that kind of relationship. You
Oh
can't really
man.
do through. Yeah, it was terrible. But
Yeah, no. That's some Fear Factor level
Fear
stuff
factor,
there. That's like,
exactly, exactly.
I'll be like, nah.
Everyone around the lazy Susan, like here you
Wow.
go,
Okay.
the guest gets the gallbladder. So that was something, but that definitely helped. And it's a smaller factory, right? So it's the old owner, right? So I'm communicating directly with the owner, and so he saw us from the beginning, right? This was our first product. He saw it come from nothing to then, hey, you're getting POs and you're getting all this traction. So we'll grow our coffee selection through you as well, right? So that was kind of like key, and definitely a huge risk that I've seen huge sellers. I know personally, friends that are huge sellers, and they can't necessarily get those terms with their suppliers. Some suppliers are a lot bigger. They just
Sure.
simply, don't take those risks with their sellers.
Yeah, I don't take the risk of eating snake gallbladder myself, but that hey, to the victor the spoils. Now $2 million. That's still a significant amount, regardless. But you're working full time, so were you at this point? Were you still doing everything by yourself, or did you hire a staff? Did you have virtual assistants, or what was going on here?
Yeah, so I had, at that point, I had a couple of maybe virtual assistants that I tried here and there, and it was always kind of like, didn't quite work out because maybe they were part time or this and that. But I was essentially doing everything by myself. Yes, it was basically a one man show. I had a couple of people to help slightly, mainly on like the design part or things that I could do from back in the day, but like I was just simply not going to do. But certainly, it was a one man show on anything from sourcing all the way to
So like managing your own PPC and making your
PPC,
orders. Wow.
doing stock transfers to Amazon, setting up like channels outside of Amazon, setting up the infrastructure for that, setting up like just absolutely everything you could imagine. I was the expert at within the business, and
Okay.
that kind of it took a toll on me. Thankfully, COVID meant lockdown. So before COVID, I was working for a finance software company doing consulting. So I was traveling kind of a good bit. Like I said, Facebook was one of my main clients, so I was back and forth from the West Coast, but COVID kind of shut everything down. And so that allowed me to really, I was kind of cruise controlling on the corporate side for a little while, at least. And so like this was right when everything was picking up with the Amazon stuff. So it was really, a lot of long days and there was not much else to do because of COVID.
All right. So 2020, 2 million of sales, beginning of 2021, aggregators interest in your brand. But fell through. What did you end of approximately 2021 in sales? Did you already increase on that 2 million?
Yeah, so 2021 was probably the toughest year on the supply chain side. Still managed with the same selection. Not really launching any new products because it was just so hectic, hard to launch products during that time. We did almost 2.6 or so. So yeah, still increased the sales. Opened up channels outside of Amazon. I think that year did well into six figures, more than $500,000 or so in sales outside of Amazon, which was great. Great margins and all. And yeah, overall, just got through it.
What were some of the main marketplaces that made up those six figures of sales?
Yeah, so we're on all the .coms. It took a while to open up like vendor relationships like Target.com, Macy's.com, HomeDepot.com, QVC.com, Walmart.com. It's marketplace, but yeah, all the .coms, they make a pretty even amount of the sales. And we have some like pretty niche kind of channels, like gifting kind of channels that are and we just sell a whole lot through, and that's great. But yeah, it was always a thought to kind of diversify from just Amazon to kind of an approach to being, omni.
Was it in 2021, 2022 when you got this other job that kind of piqued my interest? Is what you told me at Prosper. Where you're currently working now?
Yeah. So what had happened was, I had quit my consulting job probably, I think it was late 20 or 2020 or something, right? Because I was like, okay, this thing is going either well or I'm going to sell or whatever it is. Anyways, I didn't see long term in the corporate world. I'm going to just quit and focus on this. And I did. I was that way it was almost 9 months. The deal didn't go through. And so recruiters are kind of always reaching out. I had finished my MBA at the end of 2019 as well. So that was also happening. And mid 2021, got a couple of, recruiters reaching out. One was from LinkedIn. and the other one actually was from Microsoft. So interesting enough, Microsoft owns LinkedIn, but I had two job offers for both companies separately. And yeah, ultimately, it was a really good offer from Microsoft, fully remote. The team is in Seattle, but I'm here, East Coast, and as a senior finance manager. And so I took that, and I've been there almost 2 years now. That I'm coming around to finally leaving the position.
Now 2022. Now you're working full time Microsoft, and I'm assuming you're scaling your business. So like, what last year? No, that's not last. Wait, what year are we? Yeah, we're in 2023. I don't even know what year. Like, time is flying by so fast. It's already like middle of Q2 in 2023. I don't even know what or when we are. Anyway, so then what last year did you end your sales with?
Yeah, last year was pretty good. Increase. We did almost $4 million. So that was good to be able to increase that, while not necessarily increasing the employees or anything. I've been essentially a one-man show. I do have about 10 employees now, but really no one handling like the general managing of absolutely every aspect. Still, I'm that involved.
So what are your 10 employees doing? Are they full-time, or are they just like part-time doing little different things here and there?
Yeah, about half of the 6 or 7 are full-time. Yeah, so think of one for fulfillment orders outside of Amazon, right? So we have a warehouse. There's one person that goes every day just to fulfill those orders because, we have vendor relationships, so they pay for shipping, right? So we have to ship some of those products. We have, customer service that is handled. We have one for logistics now. We have one for obviously design, which is very important. And then I think there's a couple others, but the key thing is I try to leverage a lot of our partners, like agencies and stuff. So like, and I can go further into all that with the new kind of announcement of how we're going into retail and stuff. But yeah, we leverage agencies for supply chain, production management, PR, influencers, affiliate management, all these kind of things that if you use them correctly, they lead to better than employees, right? Because they're incentivized to kind of like do well, take care of their customers. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So when you say 4 million, is that on Amazon or that's across like all platforms?
That's across all platforms. Outside of Amazon, it was pretty stagnant from the year before, maybe upwards of 600 or so thousand. So it was mainly Amazon, over $3 million on Amazon, and then the rest there.
And only Amazon USA or other Amazons as well?
Only Amazon USA. Okay. Yeah, just Amazon USA. Essentially with a small amount of SKUs. You're talking about basically 90+% of those sales came from less than 10 SKUs.
Okay.
So it's a pretty good distribution there. And I think we're trending a lot better, so in December alone, we did $1 million. Wow. And so that was great, kind of like iconic moment that you think, you would have never thought, like when starting a business right online, you're thinking, way too small back then. But yeah, that was good. And we're trending a lot better. And a lot of momentum outside of Amazon as well now.
So then you also said you got into retail. Talk a little bit about how that happened and then what that process was like.
Yeah, so like I said, when launching Cafe, the second brand I launched, the goal was always to try to get into retail, right? So everything from the get-go, right? Way before we were even on Amazon, as I'm just thinking of the products, the packaging, we were going to use UPC, but everything, small details as using UPC barcodes instead of the Amazon barcodes, right? From way back then, just because if you go into retail, you use the same barcodes, right? Just little things like that, working on the packaging so that it's kind of retail ready somewhat, right? And just like getting certifications for it and just like reaching out to buyers with it. And so it's been a lot of work. We've gotten into a lot of the .coms as vendors, which is still hard, but it's not the physical retail. And so like, thankfully last year, after a lot of work, visiting, Walmart headquarters a couple times. So we went to a line review with Walmart. And so we have a couple of our products now going into 4,000 Walmart locations. So essentially every Walmart in the US. And so that's obviously a huge deal. It's been in the works for a lot of months, but we're finally delivering the products here in this next month in May. So that's kind of an awesome, iconic moment for us.
So have you seen the PO already?
Yeah, it's huge.
Is that like a six-figure PO, 7-figure PO, or what are we talking?
Yeah, it's mid 6 figures, but it's only supposed to be enough for a couple weeks. So it
Mid six
should be a
figures for
good
a couple
time.
weeks of sales. That's why I tell everybody, like, once you get into 4,000 Walmart stores, that's like, you know, that's bigger than Amazon, pretty much. Now I'm looking at your listing right now. Right now, it looks like you're in the midst of a lightning deal. Looks like.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah.
See, I
Just a
love that.
lightning
You don't
deal
even know what's
one
going
day
on.
for a couple
You
of.
got a team who's managing this stuff now. So is lightning deals something that you guys, or deals of the day and things like that? Is that something that you guys do a lot or leverage?
We do 7-day deals, and we do lightning deals. Yes, they do help a lot. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
And we ran in trouble with those back in the day because those are guided by your last retail price, or your moving average price
Yes.
of what you retail at. So we used to run just like cut our price and try to run a lower price, and then that would affect our lightning deals and our 7-day deals, and then we would have to run those deals at almost unprofitable, at times back then, right? So it took a while to be able to kind of gain some knowledge there and keep our retails kind of mapped out so that we're able to run the deals at prices that still make sense for us.
Cool. Now, what are some other strategies? So we talk about lightning deals. I mean, obviously you have a well optimized listing. These are just the basics, things. But frequent lightning deals might not be something that's a common strategy. So what are some other, like, maybe unique strategies you think that has really helped you get to this level where you're at that maybe you can share with everybody?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we talk lightning deals and 7-day deals. I think if your product starts to perform well enough, you offer those 7-day deals, and that's very important. You gain a lot of traction that week that you run those, and obviously helps your organic ranking. We've kind of tried it all, where we've tried everything from editorial recommendations. We try affiliate marketing, right? I think just today we were featured on the Kelly Clarkson show. So their Instagram has 1.5 million, followers, and they just kind of gain affiliate dollars from that. So once your listing starts to become more popular as well, more reviews, it's more likely to kind of get picked up in different things, like people running videos like UGCs and stuff.
Well, how did you get on that show though? Like was that something you did, or they just like reached out to you?
So that one was they didn't even reach out, and we just found out I found out through a friend. They were scrolling their feed and saw it and sent it to us. So we literally had no clue on that one. But now, as of the past couple of months, one of the things that we're doing more of, like I said, with agencies, is we have a PR agency. And so they seek PR specifically like around, our brand and our story and all that. And we also have an agency that handles influencers and affiliates. So they look specifically for like big media publications that are wanting to kind of feature our products and gain some affiliate dollars from it. So it's kind of one of those streams where it can't hurt, but it's about flowing, sales from every direction. Google ads we've tried, obviously, and all these kind of things to create this flywheel.
Okay. Now you're on a lot of different websites, you said, and .com and things like that. So I think you would agree with the statement that, hey, start on Amazon.com. Maybe number 2, Walmart and or your own website to start building your brand, and then obviously with a long-term goal of getting into Walmart stores. But if we're just talking about online marketplaces, other than what I almost call the big 3 is, Amazon, Walmart.com, your own website, what would you say is the next couple of ones that you think give the most bang for the buck? Like, are we, like talking like Target or something, or what website you think people might be sleeping on out there?
I'll give you one. I'll give you the obvious ones. Obviously, if you can get into Target, if you can get into Macy's, all those are worth it just for the name alone. Even if you're not selling much, right? You associate your brand with being in those retailers, which not everybody can do. But I'll give you a true sleeper, and I'll give you the quick story of how I found it. So I don't know if you've heard of Faire.com.
I have
not heard of Faire. It's essentially Faire.com is a marketplace. It's like a unicorn startup, so it's like huge. I think valued at like 10 billion or so. So it's a big marketplace, but for think of for mom and pop shops, right? So if you own like a boutique or you own like a little coffee shop, you need to source goods for your store, right? And so you go to Faire.com, and that's where you kind of buy them. But I came across, because my wife and I were on a road trip in Cali down the US 1, and we stopped at this coffee shop. And the coffee shop had like amazing items, like all different brands, but they were like really nice. And I was like, wow, there's no way that the coffee shop owner here is sourcing all these or private labeling all these. Just no way, right? And so I asked the lady that was in the corner, kind of doing inventory on a pad, like, where do you, where do you source all these? And she said, oh, Faire. And I was like, okay, noted. So I just kind of tabbed it, went along with my road trip, got home, looked at Faire, onboarded in there. And essentially you're selling to like physical locations, so that's the great thing. It's like, we've now sold over $100,000 worth of products through Faire after just kind of finding out, randomly. And I get like pictures and stuff from friends from time to time, like, hey, I'm in this random coffee shop in North Carolina and I see your products here. Like, how did it get here? Or like, hey, what is your product doing in the middle? And so that's amazing. And so like,
so that, I mean, not only are you getting sales from there, but, like customers who are just going to coffee shops and they're like, man, this tastes good. Or they're looking there and they might be going home or just right there going on their Amazon app and looking up your brand. And so who knows what kind of residual benefit it is to, I like that.
Yeah, and sales are easy to fulfill. They're repeat purchase because they're buying for their coffee shop or their little store, and so like once they sell, they'll buy again. And so yeah, it's one of those things where it's a little unlock, and it's worth a lot more than just the money it brings in, but rather your product having distribution and being out there, spreading out your brand, and so that means a lot.
Cool. So it sounds like throughout this time you've been working full time. You've hired staff though to help you. But is 2023 the year that you're gonna retire from working for the man and now go all into your business? So like, what's your goals for your brand?
Yeah, so it's really good timing because I'm actually in the process of that of quitting my job. It's just coincidence that I'm on the pod and we're talking about it. So yeah, being on Amazon, being an Amazon seller, a lot of times, and most Amazon sellers, like you said, we're behind the curtain and we don't care to be behind the curtain. We, kind of hide behind our brands historically, because who cares to know the founder, right? Like, but with the whole Walmart thing where, we're now starting to be reached out for press or like, interviews and just like overall you're on the shelf. So like, the brands kind of need a customer facing sort of name. And so like, it's kind of the time to do it just because it's kind of grown to the point where it also doesn't make sense to stay. I almost wish my job wasn't as good and didn't pay as well or, didn't offer as much because then it would have made it a lot easier to quit a long time ago. But it's allowed me to kind of really scale the team and just kind of, go as long as I could before making that leap. So it's not the first time I make the leap. I did quit, like I told you back in the 2020. But this time, hopefully it's for good, and just to be able to fully take care of and run the company.
Definitely want to reach out to you maybe in a year or so and see how retired life is suiting you. Probably you'll find that you're actually probably working more than you did than when you're
I
working.
I wouldn't say retired life. Retired life, yeah, you can word that differently. I would say committed to the game life.
There you go. Love it. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us and telling us about your journeys. Very inspiring. And there's people out there who might be in the similar shoes as you. A few years ago, they're still working full time and they might have thought, man, I the only way to scale my business is by quitting my job and just giving it full time right from the get go. But I think you've proven that, hey, no, there's different ways to do it. You could still scale a business, as long as you have good help, while you're still in your, a great job that you might have, that you might like and find success. So, it's really great to see what you've accomplished. And I look forward to seeing what you accomplish in the next couple of years.
Appreciate that, Bradley.
All
Hope
right.
I'm able to be back and tell really good stories by then.
I love it. Well, in the meantime, we'll get you on our Spanish podcast too, so you can tell your story to la comunidad de habla hispana.
Vámonos.